Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Token Games Podcast. I'm your host and sometimes referee, except no substitutes, Zach Stat Pearson, and today I'm joined by the officer who has been in 9,001 minutes and some change of conversation and dialogue. The man whose fuel and rage from Konami cannot be put out, much like the coronavirus. Officer 9001.
Hashtag fuck Konami. Hey, how you doing?
The catchphrase strikes again. Alright, let's get into them topics. Topic 1. Of the many side stories and continuations and prequels or sequels to the Final Fantasy VII, the one thing that has not been brought up in all of this time is what storyline or character should have a side story to complement the main one. Who do you recommend and why? Topic 2. Oh shit, Microsoft is finally entering legal situations. Due to their constant stick drift being hidden instead of repaired since the Xbone's inception, do you think the plaintiff has a shot at winning? And just so we're clear, Xbone specifically refers to Xbox One. It's a contraction for Xbox One specifically. Now, topic 3, developer content. The creation of media for the customers by the game designers is not a foreign concept, but is rarely seen and oftentimes relegated to special edition extra content purchase of a game. Even though this kind of content is liked by many, it is rarely output. Should developers consider making development streams to show a game's progress, or is the demand still extremely limited and isn't worth it? Why or why not? Topic 4. Updating versus upgrading. When old games are modernized, they can sometimes, be seen as either updated for the modern era or receive massive changes to make it equal or superior to the original. Consistent rumors have floated around the industry for the past month claiming that both Capcom and Sony are looking to acquire licenses to utilize or purchase to own Konami's IP library, IP standing for intellectual property, for gaming. Do you think this is true? If so, who do you think should get access? Alright, go ahead and knock them topics out, bruh.
Alrighty, let's see here. For topic 1, I'm thinking it would be interesting to see maybe Red 13.
Saw that coming and I'm not mad.
I mean, yeah, I'd say like maybe Barrett, but I would say that was elaborated on well enough. And I mean, other than Red 13, the only other character I could think of would be maybe I don't know, like the other people in Avalanche, like Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse. That, or possibly Professor Hojo. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's a bit of a stretch for a lot of these. Red 13 is the only one where finding out more would add a fair bit to the story. Considering, honestly, we don't know a whole lot about his race and all the various things that happened with them. There was like a little bit more in, I think it was the mobile game for the Turks. I think it was called Before Crisis or whatever.
Yes.
Where there was another of his race that showed up, and they went into a little bit more detail. But even then, it really wasn't all that much more. So, yeah, the only one I could really think that would add a whole lot of substance would be Red 13. Okay, as for topic 2, what exactly is this stick drift specifically?
The left stick.
Okay. So the movement stick would have a tiny bit of drift in it,
that keeps
where it would.
getting more predominant.
Well, shit, that is pretty bad. And would definitely impact a bunch of different games. I think if this problem has been brought up and they said, oh yeah, we fixed it and lied about it, well, so long as the plaintiff can bring forth proof that, yeah, they didn't fix it after they said they fixed it, I think they got a decent chance. Okay. Topic 3. I know this is something that a lot of games on like Steam's early access do is they, put out, hey, this is the game. What kind of change do you want? And it's something that, a lot of people are totally on board for. I personally think it could work pretty well. Apologies, allergy, coughing. Yeah, I think it's something that could work rather well, though for a big name game studio like, I don't know, BioWare, I get the feeling they probably won't do it, even if it's something that is people are going for more. Because the more people you are that your game is appealing to, the more people are going to want to say, oh, you should do this, 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 and this. So there comes a problem of you have a bunch of different people, and if they're all saying different things, it could end up just making things harder. So I guess I would say yes, but it would depend on the scope and reach of the game in terms of number of people that think are going to get going in to play it. Alrighty. Though, actually, no, now that I think about it, it could, in fact, still work for a bigger game. They would just maybe take some of the most numerous bits of advice. Because I know the Creative Assembly that does the various Total War games have done a bunch of streams showing off new stuff that they're doing for their games, and they apparently have been listening to fan demand, though a lot of this is after the game has already been released. So thinking about it, you could in fact still continue to make adjustments to the game, at least to a certain extent, after the game has been released, if it has enough popular support. Okay, topic 4. Is it better for a classic to have updated visuals or updated redesign? So are you saying, is it better to have, say, Final Fantasy VII Remake than it is to have, say, Final Fantasy VIII Remastered? Is that what you're asking here?
I mean, you didn't need to say Final Fantasy, but yes.
It was the first example that came to mind, sorry.
No, it's fine. I just find it hilarious because you ain't the first person to do that.
Well, personally, I would prefer something more like Final Fantasy VII Remake, if only because of how much the game, was changed. At least gameplay-wise. Story-wise, was still mostly the same, except, various spoiler things I won't get into.
Get into it.
Okay, it was the same except for the plot ghosts.
That's like their most popular name, plot ghosts.
I mean, that's basically what they are. They are there for the purpose of, we must keep everything going as it was. We can't let Sephiroth change things. But anyway, personally, getting back on topic, I would prefer a something of in the lines of, like, say, the Final Fantasy VII Remake, where the game's story is still most the same, but they do a really big change on gameplay to make things a lot more interesting. And even add a bunch of new content. Because as I'm aware of it, when it comes to all these various games out there, there is always going to be some amount of cut content. Like things that they were initially thinking, oh, we could put this in, but maybe didn't have the time during the development to do so. And if they get another crack at it, why not, put in some of these ideas that maybe they didn't have time to put in before? Because some of them, like in later interviews with the ones responsible for making the games, the development team, some of the ideas they said, oh yeah, we were considering this, sound like they'd be like really freaking cool. And I'm wondering if they're going to do some of that with this Final Fantasy VII Remake, in addition to the rather big changes to the plot they're doing. But yeah. Now, for topic 5 in Fuck Konami News. Personally, I would prefer if Sony got it rather than Capcom. Because Capcom's made some questionable decisions on stuff as well. And I'd honestly just prefer if it was Sony that got a hold of it, so they could just go, okay, let's give, like, say, this company, like, rights to make this game. Because if it's like a publisher, just a full-blown publisher like Sony, rather than a publisher / developer like Capcom, then Sony can just go and say, all right, let's take this IP and have this developer make it. And hopefully it would lead to something better. And at the very least, for some of the games that hashtag fuck Konami has, we would at least see something, another game showing up from that IP that we would otherwise never get if they weren't bought out. So I hope it's true, and I hope Sony gets it, because fuck Konami. And I guess that's about it for me for the topics, really.
The saga continues.
And the saga is not likely to end until Konami finally died.
Oh, that cruelty. So gangster. Alright, so, let me just go to me real quick. I'm gonna prefix this situation real quick by saying that, yes, you're not mistaken. There is a topic in here that is reflective of my introspective look at remake versus remaster in gaming. In fact, this podcast, which is coming out at a later date, is what inspired me to go that deep into it. Because, if you listen to any of these podcasts, which apparently have started not getting single-digit number of views, we hit double digits, so I guess small victories where you can get them, bruh. Fucking Um, I feel like sometimes I know the answer I want to give has a little bit of a story behind it, as in I don't just give yes, no answer, and there's other things I need to say or want to talk about, but I know that that wouldn't be fair to the other guests slash also genuine time constraints for editing, because the podcast is where I do the editing. So I go into more detail in those. So if you want to see a more detailed version of my answer, I'll put somewhere in the annotations or at the end of the video, or both, you know, my feelings on that shit. All right, so for topic one, I want to say the Turks, and I'm gonna tell you why. So it can make up for that bullshit phone game that contractually they can't reproduce without that phone company, Docomo, or whoever they are's permission. That's why. I
Good
want
call.
to know what the Turks were doing, what the Turks do on the side, give them their own unique control schemes and shit, and go from there. Because if you really stop and look at it, if you notice, bro, the Turks don't really use materia. They got electronic gadgets and shit. Now, Reno, I guess he could use materia, or they could have a system set up to where Turks only authorized to use purple materia, which is the status status increase or decrease, and blue materia in some way, shape, or form. That could work. Maybe command materia, but command materia, first off, wasn't enough in the damn game to begin with. Or they could have exclusive materia that is specifically meant for killing or stealth missions and blah, 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 blah. You get my point. So, the way I look at it, slash how I think about it, I think that they're the best chance because with them, you could tell a full story. However, even though she's only pretty from the front, unfortunately, my 20-something-year-old empathy and interest with Jessie has been reawakened. I am sorry, Mother Tifa, but unfortunately, I have to captain two ships. I have to be among the Tifa Lockhart crew, but I have also joined the Jessie Dynasty. And I called it a dynasty because it matches her name. Jessie Dynasty. It rhymed. Shut up. Don't sue me. So, I would like to see that. Because it genuinely makes no sense how they died. The fact that they're trying to avoid showing some type of bloodshed and shit is weird to me. I don't understand the logic behind it. But we didn't see them get hurt or even a bullet wound anywhere. Wedge made sense because Wedge got pushed underground from the collapse. He could have gotten his ears blown out or been unconscious from the shock wave. And since he fell from a great height and he's fat, it hurts him that much more. I get that. I totally get that. But I'm not gonna lie, the Turks would be the coolest choice for that shit. You could have them testing out combatants in the elite group. They have all day and night access to the simulator. Who's to say they don't have their own special private vacation floor and bullshit and whatnot inside of the tower? And they could even use the helicopter pad to fly to some place that isn't in Midgar, but obviously you would be restricted. Use it as a preview to see something else. Oh, hey, those dummy people we set up in Nibelheim. Yeah, there's a monster problem happening because some Mako juice got into the sea or something. Go take care of that without the civilians knowing. And if they show up, kill them. It ain't gotta be big. It could be like, it could be 10 hours. And obviously Red 13. But if those motherfuckers are too lazy to even make a fucking limit break properly for them, look, you can tell they're really not trying right now with him. However, let's be honest, they already started the planning phase of Remake Part 2. So they moving right the fuck along. They're trying to get out of that rut of things people really want taken forever, especially since it was a company-wide mandate. So Kingdom Hearts 4 is gonna. There's no more DLC coming for Kingdom Hearts 3. Kingdom Hearts 4 is gonna go into production soon-ish, and God help us all. But you know, at the end of the day, I'd rather have the remake finish out and then have a DLC or side story that shows what everybody was doing throughout the entire thing than make the second part take longer. Give me some content for right now. And that's the one thing I don't think the ADD crowd realizes. Every time you say gimme, 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 if you get your shit, the next part takes that much longer. I want it too. I want the gimme. But sometimes you can't get the gimme.
You said company-wide mandate. You mean like mandating that get these games out sooner kind of thing?
No game is allowed to take longer than 5 years.
Wow.
And
Reasonable.
that went into effect during or post Final Fantasy 15 because of how long Final Fantasy 15 took. In fact, if that game didn't produce a profit, as weird and sad and depressing as it is to play, if that game didn't produce a profit, they made open remarks saying that, you know, the future of the number titles may be put on the shelf. I'm just like, bitch, did you see how much money Final Fantasy 14 is making? You could use Final Fantasy 14 money to fund 15, 16, 17.
Yo.
They bought them mugs their own building with their own money. They have a cafe in Japan. Not Final Fantasy Cafe, Final Fantasy 14 Cafe. There's also Square Enix Cafe. Or maybe they're the same thing. Not too sure. Anyways, those are my nominees. Red 13, pretty obvious. Primarily the Turks, but also I want to play Jessie. Because unfortunately, I am in the Jessie dynasty. I know she's only pretty from the front.
Raspberry.
I know she's only pretty from the front. And that hair game on point. But I appreciate try-hard women because they're rare. Or rather, the noble ones are rare. Let me just say that. All right, topic 2. I'm going to say yes, and here's why. Because last I looked into it, the legal team working on this shit already started scouting out other potential plaintiffs so it can become a joint lawsuit.
Fuck yeah.
I hate to say it, but when it comes to big company shit, those have the biggest chances of winning. They really do. That being said, settling out of court is also a bad idea because it sets the precedent that they think that they can hide their shit if they just pay you enough. No, a problem needs to be dealt with, and the only time big corporations truly deal with their problems, especially if they're capitalists, is when they're exposed. Hush money doesn't quiet shit up. It doesn't. Now, when I say that, I mean it's doing the equivalent of putting a Band-Aid over a dam. When you put a Band-Aid over a dam, you know it's a temporary fix. The dam still leaks. You just slowed the leak. Because once these companies know that they've done something wrong, that doesn't mean they're going to magically fix it. Let's not forget the bailout that George W. Bitch pulled off. Let's recap real quick. All the banks knew that they were in a system that was going to go belly up. And so did North American Treasury Department. And he decided to bail out the banks with billions of dollars. And what did the bank motherfuckers do? Not bail out the nation. Because they were under no legal obligation to spend that money the right way.
Yep.
And then Bush said nothing about it ever again. Now, he is stupid. However, I'm curious if that was intentional or not. He's GOP, yes, but he's stupid GOP. He's the equivalent of a yes man at this point. But, well, I mean, there's nothing left to say about Bush that ain't already been said. So, hey, fuck it. Now, when it comes to developer content, let me phrase this right. I think that if your game goes well, this could be a form of, for lack of a better term, we'll say introspective DLC, which is a rarity or non-existent. Now, the introspective DLC is fucking introspective DLC. Okay, so I got to phrase it right because you know how people are when it comes to DLC. If they never go past, we'll say $10 or $5, and they show you interviews and content of people creating the game, how they came to their conclusion. It doesn't necessarily need to be a documentary on how the game was made. It can be fucking... It could be something as simple as, hey, here's the person who did all the character designs and the team that they did it with. Ask them how they came up with these designs for each character or primary, supporting, and main cast, how they came up with the aesthetic. That's some cool shit. They did, I think, about almost 30 to 40 minutes of material for Horizon Zero Dawn because it was so unique at the time. It kind of still is. But guess what? None of that was DLC. None of that was in the game. None of that is on the store. It's all on YouTube. Bitch, I charge $4.99 for that because first off, I have to pay someone to do this, make this shit. I'm making the game. I'm designing and directing the game. The person designing and directing these interviews or this mini documentary, yeah, no, they cost money. That shit ain't free. Why do people assume that shit's free? It's weird. Promotional material costs money. Behind the scenes development footage somehow in the video game industry has been viewed as promotional material. Whereas in the movie industry, it's more of a sneak peek of things to come. Or it's fodder to put on the Blu-ray, you know? So I would do that. And I think it's a good idea. Oop, almost bumped my mic. However, it should only be for games that are proven to sell a certain amount of copies. Let's say your game sells 1 million copies. Or no, 500,000 copies. I feel like if you do that well, you make profit from it, bare minimum profit, go ahead and take that footage, get some people together in a room, have them talking, making fun, and talk about how the game was made. Also, you don't want to do it the second the game come out because, you know, what if the content is meant to be show you things that are post-game or after you played and beat the game at least once. I would love to buy a mini documentary or a movie based on the production of Nier Automata, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that one's pretty crazy. I would wonder how the hell do they make...
Yeah, because if you listen to half the people that work on the game and they describe Yoko or just the primary people who got the game made, they're not crazy, but they are some eccentric motherfuckers. All right, topic 4. Updating versus upgrading, and again, I'm going to abbreviate this because I made a whole entire video on this one subject by itself. It's like 20 minutes or some shit. I'll send you a link to it too later. All right, so I think the best format is dependent on the game type. In the case of Resident Evil, they should have done, or they should do, kind of sort of like they did with 2. They should do a remaster, a remake, so to speak. Remake and remaster, kind of sort of universal. Actually, I'm sorry. No, they're not. They should keep doing remakes, but they need to have a consistent, and there needs to be a consistent standard. And that's the biggest problem with Resident Evil 3. It's half of a game, and it has less standards, and there's less effort put into it, which is kind of sad. They even admitted that the zombies work inherently differently when they get shot, for the simple fact that fucking, what was it? For the simple fact that they didn't have as much development time as 2 did to get it out. And that makes no sense to me. They could have literally dropped those characters as DLC into Resident Evil 2. And I've been telling people for the longest time, I feel like before they decided to make this thing a full game, which it really isn't, that they were going to put Resident Evil 3 in as DLC to Resident Evil 2.
Might have been better if they'd done that, to be honest.
No, what would have been better is if 3 played like 3, but they didn't fuck with story elements as much when it comes to alternate choices to increase replay value. They want people in that microtransaction ecosystem of Resistance. Maybe they didn't know Resistance was going to be fun or not, so they wanted to tap it together with something to make sure. Resistance is fun. The problem is that their matchmaking and their choice of how to handle masterminds is terrible. Masterminds need to be a rotating position unless it's a locked room. So if somebody's in a room and everyone wants to be a mastermind, that motherfucker that wins, he rotates out automatically. That's all they had to do. But the wait time, last I heard, for being a mastermind is fucking upwards of 40 minutes if you don't have a set crew and people you play with. That's insane. It's not because there isn't people playing it. It's because too many people want to do one job. And they're adding more masterminds and shit. Come on now. Fuck. Add modes. If you're going to do your own little version of Rainbow Six Siege, or you're going to try to make your own little MMO content, environment and ecosystem for Resident Evil, because they've been trying it for damn near 15 years at this point. Look, just do it right. But this is Capcom we're talking about. So, right is subjective instead of an absolute for them. Anyways, so yeah, and that's just one case and one example. But if it was something like what we've all wanted, a new fucking Sonic Adventure or a remake of the Sonic Adventures, they need to do a lot more than upscale the graphics for that one. They need to overhaul that shit. Because as fun as that game is, the controls for Sonic ain't all that. Also, a lot of the other characters' playstyles and content, even though it's supposed to be at a different tempo, one of the biggest issues is that it doesn't feel as interesting as it does with Sonic. Knuckles is hide and seek. Rouge, hide and seek. Sonic and Shadow, Sonic game. Tails, I don't know why the fuck Tails is E102 for that game, but okay. Anyways, so yeah, it's a case-by-case basis. It should be taken on a case-by-case basis. Now for topic 5, and this is where the optimistic me rears his ugly ass head for one and only time throughout the course of this whole fucking life of mine / podcast. Yo, man, they should both get it and share it and split it, or they should just get the licensing for the purposes of making crossovers. Like, get a 10-year licensing that says you have access to our library. Just give us like 20% of all profits. Something simple. That's it. That's all I'm saying. Excuse me, I somehow have the hiccups. The way I see it, Capcom can do wonders with Castlevania. They could make it a more consistent and playable Devil May Cry, or they could do the one thing we've always wanted, an RPG that plays like Devil May Cry with Castlevania. People would like it either way. Castlevania has been always walking that line between adventure game and RPG for years now. I mean, they've had a leveling system for over 20 years. But they're called the Metroidvania, which is really just, it's an adventure game. The only difference is instead of going north, south, east, west, you primarily can only go north, south, east, west on one axis. Still got a leveling system. You still gain moves and whatnot throughout the game. You just don't get them by leveling, which, if you stop and think about it, is illogical. You get them from actual different characters and shit. You know? So to be honest, I'm of that mindset that, hey, look, just go ahead and do the shit. Like, there's so much room, because if you stop and think about it, there's a reason Capcom is the king of crossover. It's not because they made one franchise that's really, really good, contrary to popular beliefs. It's because they're one of the only people who do it, because it's not that common as people think. Most people, it's just, here's one character visiting. Nah, bitch. We open up that library. Let's have a party. And they do it almost semi-annually. If you stop and think about it, in Capcom's entire library, I want to say ever since X-Men vs. Street Fighter, they've been respecting other people's properties and using them since 1996 or 95.
Damn, that's long ass time.
Yeah, and they're very consistent with it. Mind you, the reason they're so good at it is because the people who are working on it already know the shit and love it. That's really what it is. So, to see them mess around in Konami World would be insane. What if, Solid Snake and Trevor Belmont or Alucard guest star in a Marvel vs. Capcom just because they can? What if they make another Project Xbone game, finally, and this time they just say, you know what? We about to 3D that shit. Okay, you got Capcom, Nintendo, Sega, I'm forgetting somebody, Namco Bandai, and Bon Presto, if they even technically still exist as a separate entity.
I don't think so.
Nah, I'm pretty sure that they got merged down in the Namco Bandai. You got all them characters. You telling me that you can't put that shit in 3D? You telling me you can't go and grab Konami? Remember, the last game, Project Xbone 2, Nintendo was a fucking guest star. Nintendo wasn't supposed to be there. They just were there. Chrom and Lucina are actually in that game playable. And Lucina puts on a wedding dress, but we're not going to get into that.
Oh, jeez.
What?
Waifu emblem indeed.
Yeah, still hate that term, but yeah, it makes total sense. Where was I going with it? Oh yeah, like, I want more fuel in their fire, because if there's one thing I've learned, the more properties Capcom has, the more properties Smash Bros has, the more creative they get with them. That's how I look at it. Anyways, the way I see it, fucking, if they do that, if Capcom does that, that would be the shit. Because think about it. If they got a shared license, which they've done before, they've never technically went out and bought any IPs that they had a shared license or temporary license to work with. That's good for me. And the other one, Sony, well, I think Sony, if anything, Sony would let Capcom use the shit too, but they would tell them, nah, bitch, this is an exclusive. Permanent exclusive.
True.
Because Street Fighter is, first off, I don't know why people mad Street Fighter 5 is an exclusive. Like, first off, think about that for a second. Their netcode is always shit. Do you really want shit netcode across 4 platforms instead of 2?
Especially on Nintendo platforms.
Exactly my point. And mind you, Street Fighter 5 is a slow-ass game, or Street Fighter in general are slow-ass games. So, I'm just sitting up here like, have you never heard of the monkey's paw scenario? And surprisingly, apparently not. Apparently the monkey's paw situation has become less popular in common mythology, the common mythology lexicon, which kind of sad really, because it really is very, very accurate to a lot of real world situations. I look at Trump as a literal GOP monkey's paw. Anyways, that's how I would view it. So I think both of them should get access. All right, that being said, any last minute shit you want to talk about or bring up in the media ether?
Let's see here. Fuck you, GameStop. You need to die
Damn.
because you're, going to go and try and kill off your own workers by opening up during, coronavirus stuff. And of course, as always, fuck Konami.
Bro, the fucking mayor and the governor working on a phase plan just for the pandemic because our numbers decrease, but they could easily increase if we just say, hey, fuck it, everybody can go do what they want to do. Dude, it's a 5-part phase, and conventions are like the last thing on the list. The last thing on the list. So that means like conventions may not be a genuine physical event until fucking
year
2023. But the reasoning is sound. The reason we got it under control is because people are being compliant. But compliant does not mean the exhaustion of the virus. Also, we ain't closed off no state borders, remember? So since we haven't closed off any state borders, who's to say Kentucky and A, B, and his mom and Paul, sister, and his cousin, and his wife, and her baby mama, and her baby daddy, and all this other shit won't just flood up into Illinois because A, Kentucky's a broke ass state and it's been that way for a long time. People like to say blue states are welfare states, which is the most illogical shit I've ever heard, but Kentucky literally bleeds the nation dry. They barely send $12 billion to the national treasury, I think in 2018 or 2017, but they took out over $100 billion. See the problem with that?
Yep.
So, the way I look at it, fucking point blank, all bullshit aside, I think we got some of the best people in office right now to handle this shit. Because first off, can't nobody trust Rahm for shit. Rahm, I won't even say Rahm is a sellout to the GOP, even though he's supposed to be a Democrat. I think Rahm's a Democrat. Was Rahm a Democrat? Let me check.
I believe so, yeah.
Hey, Google. Rahm Emanuel political affiliation.
Rahm Emanuel is a member of the Democratic Party.
Yeah, too bad he sucks at it. And then he just kept having so many fuck. He said, oh, well, I'm resigning from office, you know. I just feel like I need to spend more time with my kids. Like, no, your ego can't take losing. That's all it is. You're insecure about losing. You failed the state. And even if you didn't line your own pockets, you didn't fix half the shit that was draining the state's money. Oh, but you gonna wait till the last minute to fire extremely corrupt heads of chiefs for the police? Nah, bitch, you're not winning no brownie points. Oh, look, I spared your lives, so now you're gonna vote for me. No, we're not. Like, I honestly feel like the only reason he fired the chief of police or commissioner of police and whatever his name is was because he thought he could get more votes. Not because it was the right thing to do. That man was fucking up for over 10 years. They were maxing out the insurance plan and the insurance payout for the entire state. I think in 2015 and again in 2017. And even if they don't, they get close. But those same motherfuckers don't lose their job. The fact that that kid that got shot for jogging in the street when they just wanted to ask him questions, and then the whole entire fucking department tries to cover for him, and they fucking took out the video footage audio. Yeah, bitch, I know that trick. Nah, the footage wasn't corrupted. You purposely took it out. Fuckers. The fact that, first off, it took what, a year and a half to get that shit ready for court? But the fact that it took that long and there was that much money spent. Stupid. And there was no defending him. He got out of a car, saw an unarmed person who hadn't been accused of a crime, was just being spoken to, and he shot him to death so many times that he died before he hit the physical ground. And he was a kid. So yeah, believe me when I say I'm glad we got smart people in office. Even if they shady or they just there to line their pockets, they ain't stupid. Dead people can't give you money. Even if you work in mortician services, dead people don't give you the money. Their relatives do. But you know, depending on what area you go to, people don't act like those laws even mean anything to them. And that generally aggravates me. I just love how white privilege is some type of delusion or it's made up. But every time I go to fucking work at the new job, because I transferred from my old job because they kept having coronavirus outbreaks. First thing I see when I get off the train, that's like maybe 10, 15 minutes away from the job. First thing I see a gang of people, and I don't mean thuggery, I mean a group of people, jogging in the middle of the day, and most of the mugs half naked. No mask, no glove, no form of protection on their face, and again, half naked.
Not surprised.
Me neither. My problem with it is that they're doing it in broad daylight. I'm just sitting here like, you're not even trying to be sneaky. If I need to go buy a new mask, worst case scenario, I got a raincoat with one of those coatings on them. It's not a soft raincoat, so I don't get hit by anything as long as I zip the collar all the way up. The shit covers all the way up to my nose, and I wear glasses. So my eyes and the bottom of my face protected. These mugs out here in a crop tank top or a crop top, which is basically a half of a fucking sleeveless shirt or a sleeve shirt, and shorts and sneakers, jogging. I'm just thinking to myself, man, fuck all of you. Every last one of you. It's like they're heavily implying, oh, we can't get sick. Sick is for poor people. But, you know, that's enough about West Town. That shit pisses me off. Anyways. Fuck, it's been a bit of a slow week, I'm not gonna lie, but, you know, I still got content coming out. You beat Final Fantasy VII, right?
Yup.
All right. Well, if you want to, I'm gonna go and I can make a video where I talk about what I think the remake is and how I think remake is the wrong label for it. It's not dissing the game, but it's just talking about they started something that they didn't have a name for, but they slapped the title remake on it. We can get into that if you want to, but I don't know how busy you are.
We'll see how things are next week.
No, I meant like right now.
Right now, can't really do that right now.
Okay. All right, with that being said, this has been another exciting episode of Token Games Podcast. I will see you guys when I see you guys.
Latest.